Okay, welcome to From Rome Info Video. My name is Brother Alexis Paniello, and this is a short live stream. I'm going to comment on the so-called Catholic Identity Conference, which was recently held or is being held by Michael Matt in the United States, because this is not a Catholic Identity Conference. First, let's talk about what it means to be Catholic and why this group is not Catholic and is promoting schism. And I don't say those words lightly. So, to be Catholic is, first of all, to live the Our Father, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And if you don't believe there is a God, if you don't believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, really existed, really preached, and the Catholic faith is really true, then you don't give a care about doing the will of God, the Father, on earth as it is in heaven. And in the Our Father, when we say, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, we are making a momentous commitment. It's momentous because it's not just, I'm going to try to do your will in a manner that's something inspired by how it's done in heaven. No, it's as it's done in heaven. Christ did not come down to earth to start a cultural movement. Okay? That's not how it works. That's not the Catholic religion. Christ came down to earth to convert us back to God and teach us to be citizens of heaven. Christ is king to make us citizens of heaven. Christ is not king to make us vote for the Republican Party. Okay? Christ is not king so that we would be citizens of a state in this world. Excuse me for saying it, but that's the truth. Christ is not king so he can be a sort of heroic cultural figure that inspires our desires or religious sense. That's not how it works. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Christ wrote those words in the Our Father for us to say daily. That's the Our Father is the first definition of the Catholic religion. And if you don't understand that, you haven't learned a thing about Christianity and don't know what the Catholic religion is about. So, what does it mean to do God's will on earth as in heaven? Well, we could talk about many things. I'm going to talk about one thing. You have to be in communion with the Apostolic See. As Boniface the Eighth declared in his bull Unum Sanctum, it is impossible for anyone to be saved if he is not subject to the Apostolic See, the Roman Pontiff, the Vicar of Christ. And that is a doctrine which I think most tradies will admit, but which almost none of them believe. And Michael Matt and the whole Catholic Identity Conference, this is their psyop they're playing on you. It's a complete lie. They're saying that they're going to teach you about Catholic identity when all that Michael Matt pushes is a fake version of the reality. Because if you want to be in communion with the Apostolic See, you have to be subject to a validly elected Roman pontiff. Even Wikipedia admits that there's over 44 anti-popes in the history of the church. So if there's anyone who today says it's impossible that there be anti-popes, they're lying to you. And if you go even to Wikipedia and read how was it that there were anti-popes, you will see that it is because those who were supposed to elect the pope either violated the rules or they didn't elect the pope, someone else did. Okay. That's what it means to be an anti-pope. You will also see that there's no church document saying who was an anti-pope. How do we know who was an anti-pope? Because who was legitimately elected? That's the first thing. And because individual Catholics came out and said that election's invalid. And this principle is enshrined in papal law today. Now, it is very strange, and you should take note that Michael Matt and everyone in that conference, Catholic Identity Conference, they're going to talk about everything. But I'd bet $1,000 there's one document they won't talk about, and that is John Paul II's papal law on how to elect a Roman pontiff, Universi Dominici Gregis. We had a conclave this year in May. That law governed the conclave. Why aren't they talking about that law? I can tell you why they're not talking about that law. Because that law was not observed. It was violated. And if you're going to do the will of God the Father on earth as it is in heaven, you got to remember those words of Jesus Christ. Whatsoever you bound on earth shall be bound in heaven. And that applies to popes promulgating apostolic constitutions determining how a pope is elected. And in Pope John Paul II's law, he's still a saint, right? I mean, do you think he's a saint? Do you think he's the pope? Was he a valid pope? Do these 5 bishops who attended that conference think that John Paul II was a valid pope, or are they sedevacantists? I submit that they're sedevacantists, along with Michael Matt. Why? Not sedevacantists in the normal sense of it, in the sense of they don't recognize he's the pope. Because if they recognize he was a valid pope and that law is binding, then why did they accept the election of Cardinal Prevost as Leo XIV, who was elected with 133 cardinal electors, when the law expressly says you can't have more than 120 cardinal electors at a time voting? It says that in paragraph 33. To pretend that that didn't happen is a psyop. And to hold a Catholic Identity Conference pretending that didn't happen is a lie. And this is an intel operation. I mean, Michael Matt went to Christendom College, which was founded by 3 CIA agents and 2 Skull and Bone members. Are you going to tell me, Michael Matt, that you're not lying to everyone? I challenge you. And don't give me that the cardinals claim to have a dispensation. They had no proof that that dispensation was ever granted. There was no statement quoted by Pope Francis at any time, in any place, by any witnesses, in any document. They just all decided on April 30th, we're going to make this claim. But their claim is useless because the papal constitution in paragraph 4 says you can't use dispensations during a sede vacante. Now, I challenge each of those 5 bishops to read the papal law. And I challenge everyone at that conference to be Catholic. Because if you're going to pretend that law isn't binding, or if you're going to pretend that dispensations can be used, or if you're going to depend that that dispensation the cardinals claim to have, the vote in numbers of 133 of them rather than 120, is okay, then you're a schismatic. You're a schismatic, you are not Catholic, and you're not being Catholic identity. It's a schismatic identity conference. And there's no other way to explain it. And John Paul II, in paragraph 76, reaffirms the ancient tradition of the Roman Church that when an election is invalid, I don't have to wait for anyone to declare it. I don't have to wait for the Roman Rotum to hand down a decision. I don't have to wait for the cardinals to get together and say it was invalid. I don't have to wait for bishops to get together and valid. And it doesn't matter how many people say it's valid. If it didn't follow the rules, it's invalid. Read it. Universi Dominici Gregis, paragraph 76. It's there. And since John Paul II's law doesn't say what you do when all the cardinals and bishops lie and violate the law, that doesn't mean that you ignore the problem and it's okay. That's not what it says, because Nicholas II in his bull makes it absolutely clear that you are accursed of God if you side with someone who was uncanonically elected the Roman pontiff. You are accursed of God. Nicholas II calls an anti-pope an antichrist, and his followers the followers of Satan, and he curses them. So this is not just a legal problem. And you are totally dishonest if you are holding an identity conference and spreading these lies. And I know these lies are spreading because there are bishops at that conference who are now saying that it's okay because everyone agrees to it. They're not saying it at the conference, but they're saying in private conversation, and this is outrageous. It's totally outrageous. And we cannot be quiet about this. So I ask you to like and share this video and put it in chats all over the place. If you hear Michael Matt's Catholic Identity Conference of 2025 talked about, share a copy of this video. And don't waste your time, put a comment on his site. He'll censor it right out. My other comment is that I find it highly objectionable that priests from groups like the Fraternity of St. Peter are telling Catholics to censor this kind of news as if it was dangerous. We have a complete inversion of values here. If you're saying that the truth is a lie that should be censored, you are of the devil. And if you are a priest telling lay people to do that, you are of Satan. And if you're a Catholic, you should break off completely with any clergy who dare to gaslight you and manipulate you like that. Okay, that's all I have to say. But it's just totally outrageous what's going on. This is not a Catholic identity conference. This is a schismatic identity conference.